Welcome, 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 everyone, to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Cheyenne with us today. She's also a cohort in the BUMP program, and we'll tell you a little bit about that. So, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
Me too. So, if you would, if you tell us a little bit about your story and journey that led you to what you're passionate about today.
Oh my goodness. I never know where to start because it goes back a long ways. But I guess the most pertinent part of it actually goes back to about 2009, because my husband had been an entrepreneur for a bunch of years and he started having health challenges. And, I had been teaching a class I created in the community college system called Find Your Song and Sing It, Finding or Creating Work You Love. And he just wasn't loving his work anymore because he was in too much pain. Everything was starting to hurt. And I looked at him and I said, "Well, I wouldn't be very much integrity if I told you you had to keep doing something that you're miserable doing." So we found a way to sell the business creatively, but it backfired on us. And the people that we sold to that were supposed to continue to pay us as consultants, they ran the business into the ground. We went through a financial crash. And then with his health challenges, we put some prayer out there to basically try to figure out how to move through all of that. And so between the financial crash, the health challenges, and the fact that my husband actually ran for governor back in 2012, we said, you know what? We need more people living in their purpose. And there's two things that are stopping people from doing that. It's the financial challenges, it's the health challenges. So that's why we do what we do. We're on the road. We've been on the road for 6 years, and
Wow.
we're helping people to remove both the health and the financial challenges that stop them from living in their purpose.
It's a catch 22, isn't it? Because
Hmm.
I heard so many stories where people were working a job. It wasn't necessarily a bad job, but there was no heart in it, and that they would
Hmm.
get more. The longer they stayed, the sicker they got until they were forced out, um,
Yes.
which put them
Yes.
on their path of what they're passionate about. So,
Yep.
is he a governor today, or I guess not if you're traveling?
No, 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 no. In fact, it was crazy because he got the idea to try doing that just a few years after we went through our crash. So we had no financial resources to put into politics, and we weren't very well known either. So it was just really it was a learning experience because we had seen so much as we went through the final financial crash. We saw how a lot of our systems, they trap you in these systems and it's hard to get out. And they were trying to trap us, and we're like, "Oh heck no, we're climbing out of this mess. Get out of the way!" And they kept trying to hold us down. And my husband was like, "You know what?" He said, "If we're not trying to do something to be part of a solution, then we're part of the problem." He said, "So I don't know what it takes to run for governor, but I'm going to find out." And he did become an actual write-in candidate for governor of North Carolina in 2012. And he was an
Wow.
independent. But the kicker was that everything in the system silenced him. It was
No.
very, very hard to do anything, even though we had people on both sides of the aisle that were enthusiastic about his platform, and a lot of them voted for him.
But it's
So
so
we
true.
had.
I've seen it even on the bigger stages, the ones that are independent or unknown that but it's a symptom of a bigger problem that you're
Yes,
addressing is
yes.
that that we're naive or just uninformed or just unaware of how a system that's keeping us trapped. So what was it, when did you realize it and how did you address it? What was the change that you clearly went through?
Well, it was challenging because we ended up on food stamps for about 6 months. And, as soon as you enter into some of these systems, they're tracking a lot of what you're doing, and they want you, well, you need to be applying for lots and lots of jobs, and you need to sit here and apply for lots and lots of jobs. And I'm like, no, we're going to go build a new business. Oh, you can't do that. You need to be right here as long as you're getting any assistance. And, that was just really, really hard to deal with. And, I picked up some, part-time jobs here and there just to kind of keep people quiet. And we got off the food stamps, we got off that as quick as we could. But it just blew my mind how hard that they made it. And I know there's a lot of good intentions there, but when somebody is motivated to get up and do more, to tell them that they can't, that's just wrong. I'm sorry.
No, I'm totally hearing what you're saying, and it's true. And this whole other thought stream of consciousness just came through too. It's like if you're being successful and somebody else is not doing what they were called to do or could be doing, then you're like a mirror. You're like a reminder of what they're not doing. And so they work really hard to keep you in place. And that could be a family member or friends or well-meaning people. Um,
Yes.
so it sounds
Yes.
like you were dealing with that as well.
Oh yeah, very definitely. It was all just a ton of struggles, and it was crazy. Of course, everybody thought my husband was nuts to run for governor, but we've actually written a book called Skip the Politics and Create Heaven on Earth because we wanted to share some of the insides of that experience. And as a result of that, we learned a lot. Like right now, you're starting to hear it said, hey, the US spends more money than anybody else in the world on healthcare, but we're ranked 49th in our results. Well, we were 40th in 2012. And so we're continuing to drop. And we're like, why is that? Because if you go to other countries, you've got a broader choice of what you can do for healthcare than you do here. And, we saw all of those things, and it's like, wow, if you happen to be somebody who believes in a higher power, the number one thing that we learned in his run for governor was how much that belief and the higher power in general had been removed from all our societal systems. That's the big thing that we learned.
Wow. So knowing that, what was the next step? How did you start making the shift?
Well, it was weird because when we went through our crash, we made a decision. My husband and I talked about it. It's like, okay, so we had a house that we let go in foreclosure. And we thought about it. It's like, should we really be fighting to keep this? And we both got these visions that we were going to go on the road. And it's like, well, then why fight? Why do that? Just let it go and let's see where it all takes us and leads us. And it's been a stepping stone at a time in that particular situation, but it's been crazy, some of the miraculous things that have happened. It's like when my husband's health, he'd had one hip replaced and it did not go very well. He came out of it with sciatica after that, and then his other hip started to hurt and both of his knees were swollen, and they wanted to do all these replacements, and he was like, no, the first one was bad enough. There's got to be another answer. And I mean, I was literally on my knees praying one night. I'm going, okay, you gave us this big vision that we're supposed to go on the road. He ain't going nowhere like that. We need help. And it was just so strange because here we are on Facebook, and it was like 3 days later, I get this message through Facebook Messenger from somebody I'd never spoken to. And he said, Cheyenne, I don't believe we've ever met, but I feel like I need to hear your story. Here's my phone number. Would you call me? And I'm like, on Facebook, ever asked to hear your story unless you're in groups like this, right? And I called this guy and he tells me at the end of the call, we talked for 2 hours and he said, "You don't have a choice." He said, "I'm jumping a plane from Dallas to Raleigh and I'm going to get your husband back on his feet." And I'm like, "You can do that?" But he made good on it. A week later, he was standing in our living room. He actually is an inventor of a healing modality that we had never seen, never heard of. He works on my husband for a half an hour, and my husband walks across the living room without a limp for the first time in a decade. And I'm like, I don't know what you just did, but I want some of that. And
That's a
yeah,
crazy story.
it is a crazy story. And then he started teaching us about mineral-based nutrition, which my husband also got working with. And now, here we are 8 years later, and my husband walks 5 miles every day with no pain and no more, he hasn't had another replacement. So those
That's
are the crazy things that started happening.
that is, because I even myself, I will admit, if somebody, gave me a phone number on Facebook and to call them, I would be very skeptical. So, wow. And so making that choice to say, why not, and listen to this person, and then them willing to fly out to meet you, I've been watching too many detective shows or something.
Oh, well, I
That's
knew of him and I knew he had a pretty good reputation. So it wasn't that scary. I knew he's internationally known as the water doctor. So he's been all over the world. I guess for me, the crazy thing was, and he's willing to fly here and help us.
I know, right? I mean, who does that? That's amazing. So
Yep.
it's that one of your focuses right now?
Yes, we're doing a lot with the very healing tools that he provided to us. I mean, we're able to do some crazy stuff between the fact that I can actually send people a link to their phone and they can do a 30-second face scan that gives them a personalized report on their nutritional deficiencies, tells them exactly all these 200 different biomarkers in their body and what's working and what's not, what's out of balance and what isn't. And so we're able to use that tool. We're able to use the process that he now has trained us in to help people be able to come out of a lot of discomforts pretty quickly. And then we also work with the mineral-based nutrition because, there's just so many people who are just, they've been derailed from their purpose because they feel so miserable. So and some of the process that he taught us is not only to help the physical, but it's to help the emotional. I have seen people that were so depressed, and when I start talking to them, because I can work with them over Zoom even, and this one young lady, she was just so depressed when I first started talking to her, and by the time we got done an hour later, she was giggling. She sounded like a little kid. She's like, "I don't know what you just did, but I hope I feel this way forever." And it's like, oh, thank you, God. I'm so grateful that we can do stuff like that.
That's incredible. I love your story. Well, I'm going to be sure that we're going to put all these links above this interview so people can connect with you and find out about these things. And you have me curious as well. I love your story. Is there any more that you would like to share about this today?
Well, I will tell you, the other side of that coin. I mean, right now we're kind of focused on helping with the healing processes, helping people to start home-based businesses so that they can, if you don't have enough money, so you can invest in some of these other healing tools. We want you to figure out how to do that. But then the ultimate, and the reason we're staying on the road right now is because we're looking for places and people to partner with where we can start to build small RV parks, small campgrounds where we can help to house people, heal people, and educate people. That's the real big vision. I'd love to see a network of RV parks where you could go to one if you're looking for spiritual knowledge, and this one if you're looking for healing, and this one if you're looking for learning how to be an entrepreneur, and just have caravan of people who are going around to these different places and adding their talents to these communities. That's where we really want to get to.
I love that. I love that. It reminds me of a documentary I saw years and years ago about the new modern, what we would call communes, but they were communities that had a focus on, like you said, it was either growing their own food or spirituality, or or they made things from scratch.
Mhm.
I love this vision. And because I always think of everything like, if you can help one person and that person helps somebody, we create this rippling effect, you
Yes,
know and
yes,
that's what I love
that's it.
about these interviews and meeting amazing people like you, is sharing your gift and opening our eyes to things that we don't even know what we don't know, or it wouldn't occur to us or come across our path. So this is pretty amazing. um I
Thank
love
you.
it. I love it. So any parting words of wisdom you'd like to share before we go today?
Oh, this is my favorite thing to say whenever I interview because, my husband and I believe very strongly that we all were born with a piece of a super puzzle. That if we were all busily building our piece of the super puzzle and then getting together with groups like what we're all creating right now and putting those pieces of the puzzle together, then we would be living in a world that would have awesome health, lots of prosperity and peace for everybody. And the fact that we're not seeing a lot of that tells you how many people are still sitting on their puzzle piece. So that's our message to everybody is you all are the miracles we're waiting for. So get up off the bleachers onto the playing field and get building your piece of the puzzle.
That's a beautiful analogy. I love that. Well, Cheyenne, thank you so much for being with us today. I am so excited you're here, and I look forward to seeing more of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. I appreciate it very much.